You cannot escape from death.
There's been a couple of breaking news topics over the past week or so surrounding fighting games in general. And I think it's important to understand what's happening for fighting games as a whole. If you're excited for, let's say, Virtua Fighter 6, if you want them to make a new Soul Calibur, Tekken 8's continued growth. Fighting games have went through multiple different eras. You had the arcade era, you had the at-home, couch co-op era, and then now you have this online era that Tekken 7, Mortal Kombat 11 was a part of. But now we're in this new era of online where you have a lot of these monetization things, and the players are requesting, demanding a lot of things, and some games can't live up to those demands. They fall and they crumble, right? And then some games can. So just seeing how fighting games are evolving in this new era of video games is pretty interesting. So far, the only one that really is untouchable right now is Street Fighter 6. All the others are stumbling in one way or another. Another one that just recently came out that was doing incredible was Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Now, we don't know the fighting game of the year nominations, but we would assume that this would not only be one, but also one that takes the cake. Tekken 8 is the only real competition. I don't know if there's any other fighting games that came out this year, but what's interesting about Sparking and Tekken 8 is that they share a lot of things. One of those things is Bandai Namco. They kind of control the game and they make the game, publish it and whatnot, right? But another thing that this game has in common is its online performance. Now, it's no secret that Tekken 8, just like Tekken 7, struggles with online performance. But I would say that the issue is only more amplified now with Sparking and Tekken 8 because players are kind of just tired of it, right? Players just want to turn the game on and it work. This news article talks about the fall off in player numbers for Dragon Ball Sparking. When this game released, it was all over the place. Memes, videos, it was dominant. This game sold 3 million copies fast. It was incredible, right? It's everything that we imagined. But for the game 4 weeks later to lose 90% of its player base, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, what happened? How did this happen? And the 3 key takeaways from this Gamer News article kind of list out the issues that caused this to happen. Number 1 is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero started strong, but lost 90% of its players within a month, impacting its success. Bullet point number 2, issues like balancing problems and cheating complaints have contributed to the decline. Number 3 says, despite the drop-off, the game may recover with upcoming content release and Bandai's history of supporting Dragon Ball games. You can switch out all of the Dragon Ball and put Tekken 8 in its place and it sounds exactly the same. Once again, if you talk about the players of Tekken, everyone is looking towards Season 2 to fix the problems and bring new life into the game. So it's not over for Sparking and it's not over for Tekken 8. But what I think is just interesting about this as a whole is that this is the fate of, video games as a whole, they usually lose a lot of their players. But fighting games, they have even more of an uphill battle. I don't think there's many games out there that has to focus so much on balancing like fighting games do. This conversation also spilled onto Twitter, where it says Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has lost 90% of its players on Steam just a month after launch. A Tekken streamer and considered raccoon, you guys may be familiar with this name, says, so like any other arena fighter or fighting game. And this is when we talk about the next topic, Multiversus. When you talk about a fighting game, no matter how successful it is on launch, then it's doomed to be niche for the entirety of its lifespan. Is that something that fighting games can somehow break free of? I mean, we see Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, all of these games trying to simplify their games and just kind of reinvent them for modern gamers. And some is figuring it out very fast and doing very well, right? Guilty Gear, Street Fighter, but then some are having disastrous outcomes. And you would have to wonder, are they going to revert course and go back to just making fighting games how they used to? Or are they going to tweak the current model and try to really make it stick? This post from IGN about Multiversus says, Multiversus has significantly underperformed. Publisher Warner Bros. Discovery has admitted. This is not good news. Whenever the parent company Warner Bros. Or Bandai Namco is admitting that the game is just not doing well, we know what comes next. People start to get fired, layoffs start to happen, the game gets scrapped. This is what I realize, right? Or this is what I think about. Games like Dragon Ball, Multiversus, Tekken 8, Mortal Kombat, they're not going to immediately be canned. They do have time to recover, and the time differs for game to game. Mortal Kombat is in a very weird situation where Warner Bros. Discovery is looking to sell that, NetherRealm Studios if Mortal Kombat doesn't make a profit. And that's why they're so desperate to put all this monetization and stuff in the game. When you look at Tekken 8, Bandai Namco took a huge loss. They canceled multiple different games. With Tekken 8 putting all this monetization in the game as well, you would have to imagine that the same pressures is on them to turn a profit, especially with how much money they invested into making a game. With Multiversus, this is a brand new game that uses so many different IPs of Warner Bros. There's immense pressure on them to make that money back, and you just have to wonder, will they be able to do that? What I think is interesting about Multiversus is the path that they've chosen for themselves. Totally free to play, live service. I was looking to play the game a lot, but when I found out that the only character that you had was Shaggy and all the others you had to pay for, I was like, no way, this is crazy. There was other fighting games that tried it as well. You guys can comment down below the names, but I wonder if they reached success or if they didn't reach success. This style of let's make one or two characters playable and you have to pay for the rest, is this something that works? Or if it does work, because it didn't work for Multiversus. When you look at this game and you look at it failing, someone blamed the Smash player base. Smash fans are the worst in the gaming community. Now, I guess this person's reasoning is that Smash players basically trashed on the game. They talked so ruthlessly and viciously about the game, and that's why it failed. But in my opinion, I don't think that's true. I think what Lefton is saying about the game is probably the reality. It says this game came out unfinished with horrible mechanics, netcode, and 2v2 focus. It was taken down for months only to launch much worse in every area and adding awful monetization. And now it'll scare publishers from greenlighting any platform fighter for the next 20 years. When you look at these games, a lot of these fighting games are struggling hard, and the whole entire fighting game industry sees it. And you would have to wonder, how likely is it that we'll get new IPs like Project L? Riot Games, they have a lot of money they could just throw and try new things. But you won't really see that from like EA, Take-Two, Ubisoft. Something I've been thinking about lately is whether or not we'll get a new Soul Calibur. And the reason why is because, you had Bandai Namco cancel a handful of unnamed games. And with the way that Tekken 8 is performing, and with how Soul Calibur only sold 2 million copies, they kind of always hit that number. It wasn't never a massive game. It was, always in the 2 millions, 4 millions range, right? But with them selling just about 2 million, you would have to wonder if Bandai Namco would greenlight another one, or what they would say, no, this isn't worth for us. I look at what's happening with Sparking, with all of these different games, and I'm like, it's not good, They have to do better, and they have to be better, and they have to achieve more for fighting games to continue. Because at one point in time, they did kind of fade away. Tekken 7, Mortal Kombat, they kind of proved that they could be successful, but now we're seeing that it's not so easy,